Hey, Bryn.
Excellent. Hi, Jeff. What's up?
Not urgent, and in fact, probably interrupting, but at some point, maybe you should just change my name to like Jeff or something, or
Oh,
the,
great. Yes.
or wait, maybe I can do that. Sorry, if
Dr.
so.
Bad Potato.
Okay. So, the way we're going to do this, I have little tables here that I'm going to fill out for you guys as we go. Everyone is going to basically we're just going to go down this list and make all of your selections. We're going to choose your class. We're going to choose what build within that class you're going to go with. We're going to make any necessary class choices. Then we're going to pick your physiology, which is the equivalent of race in most D&D games. I'm just kind of going with a different angle for it because I think we'll get some more interesting stuff. And then we're going to pick your vocation, which is the craft or job your character has when they're not swinging a sword at things, and their backstory of how they got involved.
Question.
Yes.
On the 5e character builders, like the three things that you have to install, which one goes first? Because there's one that looks like it goes first, and then there's another one that says installer run first. And there's updater.
The one that is installer run first is the one you run first.
Okay.
Yeah, the zip is nothing. The zip is just a zip of the two other things. I tried dropping it in the chat and it didn't fit, so whatever. Yeah, the installer gives you like half of the content, and then the updater gives you all the like DLC content.
So, Bryn,
Yes.
am I correct in thinking that this is a 5e campaign?
4E actually, 4th edition.
Ooh.
And the reason I chose that is that 4E is a bit different than any of the other Dungeons and Dragons editions. And the big difference is that in most versions of D&D, there are fairly universal game mechanics, and then your characters just have class features that are essentially like how your character operates outside of those normal rules. But you only have like a list of cool things you can do if you're a spellcaster. If you are any kind of like fighter class, then your options every turn are just swing a sword. And maybe you have a variety of different bonuses you get on when you swing your sword. What 4E does is every character has a power list. So you have like Booming Blade, Lightning Lure. Let me switch my class over to, let's say, Fighter. And Fighter has like Cleave, Dual Strike, Footwork Lure, Knockdown Assault. And then as you level up, you just gain more and more of these abilities, and it creates a much more over-the-top anime JRPG gameplay style. I think my goal is that the fights should feel like you're playing. The game should feel like it should have like a Dragon Quest feel to it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I dropped it in scheduling. But that installer is mostly optional. I'm going to be going over all the options. That's just if you want to look through things yourself. So the one thing I want to do before we do questions and then get started on actual character building is I want to do a very quick overview of what we're doing with the world. So the name of this next campaign is tentatively named Shards in the Sky. And the elevator pitch I keep giving people is that this game takes place in a dimension that is the place that planets go after they die. So it is made up of fragments of worlds, which are all what is left of their world after the apocalypse. And so you have, similar to how in Spacefair you guys have seen, I mean, there are thousands of different inhabited worlds, all of which have their own culture and their own people and their own customs and their own history and stuff like that. And you're traveling from world to world and seeing all these different people. In this game, it will also feature a lot of traveling from world to world and seeing other people, except all of the worlds are these kind of like ruined, desolated places, and each shard is I think I've been saying that the shards vary in size from about the size of like Japan to about the size of Australia. And when you're standing on one shard, it's just a floating island. And when you look out over the horizon, you see thousands of other shards just speckling the horizon.
Are these shards surrounded by any water, or do they have like rivers running through them, or
yeah? So some of them have water. In fact, if there was, say, a like aquatic world that had an apocalypse, what you would end up with is this like, it would be basically like a floating bowl, like imagine a glass bowl full of water. That's what their shard would look like.
Could we have it be like a literal sphere? A whole thing where it's just like, well, we don't know how the water is contained.
The lower half of the sphere would be full of water. The upper half of the sphere is theoretically there, but it's air. And I am going to just kind of be scrolling through this Pinterest board of my like general aesthetic ideas for this campaign as we talk. I swear there's an option to just like browse Pinterest, but I never know how to use it. So
we're thinking fantasy Mobius.
Yes, it is fantasy, but it is the polar opposite of George R.R. Martin low fantasy, where everything is very grounded in reality and all of the people you see are based on like actual historical cultures and stuff like that. This is more of the like the fantasy that you saw people making a lot of in like the 70s, where all the authors were high on LSD and you end up with like shit like this.
Fire and ice.
Yeah. It's the
heavy metal.
My original inspiration for it was the concept art from early Final Fantasy games, which are all done in watercolor and they all look like dreamscapes. That's kind of what we're going for. So everything in this campaign should be totally new and weird. That is the setting we're going for, and that's actually the reason I'm not having you guys choose a race out of a list of races, because even if I gave you guys a huge list, that would still be inherently tying you down to pre-existing ideas, and I want us to be making new ideas with this setting. So instead, we're going to basically build our own races and build our own classes. It'll be pretty cool. The other part of the campaign that's worth noting is that this is going to be a village. Village management is going to be a very central theme of this campaign. Your characters have a hometown that's important to you, and at least for the beginning of the campaign, like, one of the most important things in your lives is just getting this town settled and surviving from month to month. And we're going to actually do the details of what kind of town it is and who lives in the town and where it's located and stuff in the second half of today's session. Does anyone have any questions about anything before I move on to doing character building?
So what is the greater goal, or what's the through line for this campaign? Like, what are we
Sure.
seeking to do aside from just maintaining our village?
So in the same way that with Base Fair, there wasn't a goal when I started crafting it. It was literally just like, this is the setting, and you guys are going to make your characters, and we'll see what happens. But Spacefarer ended up developing a story as we went based on the backstories that you guys came up with for your characters. That became the seed that I used to create the story for the campaign. I don't know what the story for this campaign is yet, because you guys haven't made your characters yet. So the story will kind of...
Let me ask another way. What is the relation between the shards in this world? Like, why are they... This is the place where planets go after they die.
You are genre savvy. Yes, that is almost certainly going to be a recurring, one of the great like themes of this campaign is answering the mystery of what this universe is and why it is and how it came to be this way. The setting, by the way, is called the Ever Realm. If we need to talk about the place that all these planets go after they die, it's the Ever Realm. And the other thing, which I forgot to mention, and I just remembered, is aeons are basically... I've compared them to like summons in Final Fantasy games, but I think a more accurate depiction is like legendary Pokemon, where they are pseudo-gods. They have godlike powers, and people worship them, and they've had a huge influence on the history of this setting, and they serve the role that gods normally do in D&D, where if your character is, say, like a cleric, your character will be a follower of one of these aeons and will inherit their power from that aeon. The difference from the way that gods are handled in most campaigns is that these aeons are like, it's just a creature. Like, it's a really big, insanely powerful creature, but it's there. Like, you can see it walking around. So I have a list
we don't have to
here.
decide on it now.
I have a list here of different aeons, which are mostly just cool concept art I found that I thought would be a good starting point. So you can see kind of the aesthetic of what I have in mind for the aeons. And these will be... one thing your characters know is that every shard has one aeon that is the like protector or the guardian or the sponsor of that shard.
No. I have a proposal.
Yes?
So, we've all seen the Never-Ending Story, I'm sure.
Yes.
If there is, we don't have to decide it now, but if there would be a through line or something to motivate and unify or disunify all these different shards, let it be the nothing. We are in the Ever Realm is a place where planets have gone to die or post-apocalyptic shards exist, but let there be a force of just a great nothing that is blinking them out of existence and slowly spreading from one point or another, or maybe from multiple points.
And we could also explore maybe that is what caused all of these apocalypses that caused these worlds to end up here in the first point.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's definitely an idea that I might explore. I like that a lot.
Hey, Brett.
Yes.
I'm trying to understand how people exist in the Ever Realm. Do people exist on the shards, or are they people-less, and where do...
No, they exist on the shards. The shards are inhabited, so let me give you the original example of what I had for the Earth shard. Now, we ended up actually doing... Earth does exist. Earth is one of the shards in this setting. The Earth shard is actually centered on Atlantis. So it is Atlantis, and then a chunk of the Mediterranean landscape is what survived of Earth. But the idea is, and this is what I originally had for Earth, you would have, say, like, the Byzantine Empire circa 1450, and they're just chilling. Hey, was the Byzantine Empire around in 1450?
That's getting really close to the Ottomans.
Okay,
maybe.
So let's say Byzantine Empire 1300s, and they're just doing their Byzantine thing, and then one day the world just breaks, like reality rips apart, and there is a seam around this chunk of land. This chunk of land and sea. It's not based on. I said 1450 originally.
Byzantine Empire ended in 1453. So
Holy shit!
yes,
Well, in this setting, they also ended in 1450,
There
just
you
in a
go.
different way. So the idea is that this like big chunk, this like continent-sized chunk of a world was preserved with all of the people and stuff on it, but none of the rest of the world. So whereas in Spacefair, you're traveling between planets and you're doing space travel between the worlds, and the worlds that you're visiting are like full spherical planets. In this, you're traveling between these flying shards that are just continents that have been ripped out of once existing planets, and those worlds' inhabitants are still there. It's just the inhabitants of like that continent, and every other continent died.
And then, as a follow-up, do our characters come from this universe, or do they come from one of the respective universes of some shard?
So that's actually going to be one of the questions you answer at the end of character creation. Is so this realm, the Everrealm, it didn't all pop into existence all at once. Worlds have been dying for millions of years, and it's not all worlds from like our universe. It is worlds from across the multiverse. And so there are shards in the Everrealm that have been there for thousands of years, and there are shards that just appeared yesterday, and the people on those shards are still trying to figure out what the fuck just happened and where their world went. So which of those categories
Where's
you
the
fall
planet?
into and where your character's culture exists along those lines is going to be part of character creation. And to be clear, in those case of the shards that had their apocalypse like 1,000 years ago, and maybe they know a few neighbors that have also been around for hundreds of years, they have existing like trade networks. There's an existing culture in the Everrealm. People travel by airship to get from shard to shard. You can actually, I have a whole system of different ways that things can get from one shard to another. So the clouds that surround shards are somewhat semi-physical. They're kind of like pillows that you can walk on. You're just gonna slip around a lot. So if two shards get close enough together, because these shards are not stationary, they drift like ships at sea. So if two shards drift close enough together, then wildlife can actually walk from one shard to another, and that's how a lot of the shards that you'll visit will have all kinds of different monsters and stuff living on them that just over the past hundreds of years have kind of like migrated over.
How does
Yes,
gravity
exactly.
work?
Yes. What was your question, Jeff?
How does gravity work?
So there is a constant gravity of down, and if you stand on the edge of one shard and look down, there's actually a kind of like an ocean that is at the bottom of the Everrealm and stretches off in all directions to the horizon. So you have a bunch of floating continents floating miles above this infinite ocean, but the ocean is not made of water. The ocean is made of space. So it's kind of like below the world is an ocean made of the night sky. Yeah. There's a lot, and we're gonna dig into all of these
Terrifying
things.
somehow.
Huh?
That sounds somehow terrifying.
It is very terrifying. That's
There's no science in this, really.
yes, and actually that is true, and is going to be a major theme of this setting. Is you have a lot of pretty much maybe let's say 50% of the shards that end up in the Everrealm come from worlds like ours where they are limited to the laws of physics, and they end up in the Everrealm, and in the Everrealm the laws of physics are loose. People can do magic, and I'll go into all the different ways that you can do magic and where that magic comes from. But also, like one of the things is you can have the fucking Dragon Ball Z energy source, where if somebody is just angry enough and passionate enough and like works out enough, they can just shoot energy out of their hands. And that energy is not being pulled from the environment. It's not coming from a god. It's just inside them. And it's not, I'm sure some scholars exist who find different ways of measuring it, but it's not like calories. It's not fat they're burning. It is this metaphysical something that exists inside of them in the Everrealm that wouldn't have existed inside of them in their home plane, where the laws of physics were a bit more concise.
Interesting. Gotcha.
Bit
of a
Yeah.
logistical question.
Yeah.
So I've downloaded the character builder, and I'm
Mhm.
looking at it now. On the build tab, and I see a bunch of races. So like, what section of this should I be looking at to follow along?
So
with the
we're
character
going to
creation?
do classes to begin with. Pretty much all we're going to use that character creator for today is classes. And then we'll use it when we get closer to the campaign. I'll do like picking out your specific powers and choosing equipment and stuff with you guys as well. When we do races, because I'm going to use this character builder, the way I'm going to do it is I'm just going to have the mechanical race for everybody be human. And the reason for that is that the mechanical benefits of the race human are you get +2 to an ability of your choice, and you get like extra skills. And that's something that's like, okay, sure, that is as generic as we can get. Okay, so I think let's get into it. I will start, because the first choice you guys are going to do is choosing your class. I will start by skimming through these class summaries that I've done of the 20 or so different classes that are available in 4th edition. And then I guess we'll go down the line and have everybody choose what class they want to go with. So just think about what's appealing to you. And if anybody wants to follow along and doesn't want to look on my screen, you can look at the general tab in Discord. I posted that OneDrive link a little bit ago. That's the document I'm looking at. So classes are broken down into 4 categories. Controller, which is AoE and debuffs. Defender, that's your tank. They're pulling aggro. They're taking the damage. Leader, which is healer in like MMO terms. They do healing. They also do buffs, and they do general like teamwork based things. And then striker is your DPS. Now, also an important thing to keep in mind when you're thinking about what classes are appealing to you is, in 4th edition, as these were originally written, these classes all had their own story of how they get their power and their like inner rules and stuff like that. So a cleric is a person who has a god they follow and they get their power from the god. A fighter is somebody who just does a lot of training. A warlock has made a pact with a demon. We're not doing that. Instead, after you choose your class, the next choice you're going to do is you're going to choose basically the lore behind your class. So your character could be somebody who they get their power just from intense training, or they could be somebody who gets their power from a pact with one of the Aeons.
We're getting
Yes. So that means don't look at cleric and say, oh, I don't want to play cleric because I don't want to be a divine character. You don't have to be.
yeah. You just use it.
Yes, exactly. So, classes, cleric, not much to say here. It's very straightforward. They do a lot of healing, they do a lot of buffing and shielding, wholly elemented abilities. Fighter, it's a defender class. They have probably the most variety of any class in the game in terms of like different play styles, but they are all physical and they're all fighting, and they fight, and they're called fighters, and they fight good. Paladins, also defenders, leaning a little bit towards leader because they can do some healing and stuff. The cool thing that paladins do, and all defenders have some variation of this, paladins do something called challenge, where they pick an enemy and that enemy has to fight them, and if that enemy fights anyone other than them, then the paladin will be able to punish them for doing that. And then as fighters go, paladins have lots of flashy moves with like energy beams shooting out of their weapons and stuff like that because they're paladins and that's what they do. Ranger should be fairly self-explanatory to anyone who's played Dungeons and Dragons. They can either be a finesse melee type fighter or a ranged combat type fighter. They can also have animal companions that they fight alongside. They're Legolas. They're all physical combat, but they do more so than most physical combat-based characters. Their abilities have built-in like cool guy stunts. Like their abilities will say like, you do 3 flips over an enemy's head and shoot him with an arrow while you're coming down. Like, okay. Rogue, again, you should all be familiar with what the idea of a rogue is. Their mechanical advantage is sneak attack, which does big bonus damage anytime they have an advantage. Warlocks, now we're getting into the spellcasters who all kind of act the same. So we have to be very specific about what the difference between them is. So unlike, I think Warlock and Wizard we should talk about together because you should think about them in comparison to each other. Wizard is a controller. They do AoE, but they also very much focus on confusion and debuffs and controlling the enemy. Warlocks are strikers. They do a lot of damage. And they also have a mixture of melee and ranged spells. So if you want to be a spellcaster and you want to get your hands dirty, Warlock might be a good fit for you. And all of the Warlock abilities are very like demonic and occult and Lovecraftian and creepy. So that could be a bonus. Warlord is I think one of the most interesting classes in the game. Warlord is a leader, which is again the healer like archetype, except they have no magic. They are completely non-magical healers, and that doesn't mean they're medics. They are frontline fighters who heal their allies and give them buffs and do all this stuff just by charisma alone. They are very compelling. And mechanically, their big thing is that
I know you've been shot in the gut, but look at my smile.
yes, no, literally, it's like, hey, bud, you can do this. I believe in you.
Dying.
Yeah. And one of the benefits, because warlords are supposed to be based on like tactician, is their kind of inspiration. Their big thing is that while most leaders help the party by giving them buffs, warlords help the party by giving them extra actions. So a warlord's action would be like the warlord gives a bellowing shout as they charge into an enemy, and then they pick one adjacent ally, and that ally also gets to attack the enemy. Or they do this attack that will distract an enemy and give their ally an opportunity to shift away. So warlords give their allies extra actions. Pretty cool. Wizard, their control-based combat. They have summoners, which is pretty cool. And they're very much into one of the things with Wizard is that they have a bigger selection of abilities than any other class, but they can only use about half of them at a time. And then anytime they rest, they can use their spell book to swap in and out abilities. Avenger, this is one I wanted to pull up the art for because I thought the art is very cool. The Avenger is I described it as it's kind of like a paladin mixed with a barbarian or a Jedi that's just really pissed. They're very, very angry. And their whole thing is they pick an enemy and they say they absolutely hate that enemy, and then they stick to them like butter on toast, and they do not let that enemy get away, and they don't let that enemy have a second to breathe, and they just kick the shit out of that one enemy and don't focus on anything else. Their attacks are all they have an interesting aesthetic because they're a combination of the paladins, like, you know, infusing their sword with divine light kind of thing, but also they have some necrotic, like, evil abilities mixed in there. So it's a very cool contrast. Barbarian, self-explanatory. They have big axes. They hit things hard. They're strikers. The one interesting thing is that the barbarian is not an entirely physical class. They're mostly physical, but then anytime they use one of their abilities that lets them rage, they manifest a spirit around them that empowers them to be rage. So, like, they might have, like, they start shouting, and then just a big astral bear wraps itself around them, and they have this, like, transparent bear ghost that follows them around as they kick the shit out of their enemies. Pretty cool. Bard, it's a leader, so they have healing. They're less focused on healing than buffing allies and manipulating enemies. They have a few at-will abilities they can use when situations are met. So they're a little bit tactical. And, you know, they're bards, which means, you know, you'll have instruments and you'll have, like, visual manifestations of music coming out of your instrument and then slapping the enemy in the face or whatever. Druid, we all know mostly what a druid is. It's a combination, so in this game, they're a combination controller striker. They're actually very interesting because in most versions of Dungeons and Dragons I've played, Wild Shape is an ability that you use, and then you have like 3 times a day that you can Wild Shape or whatever. In 4th edition, Wild Shape is an at-will ability, and it's a minor action, meaning you can move and attack in the same turn that you Wild Shape, or turn back. So their combat style is actually intended to be a constant blend between human and animal. And it also mentions that they don't have to turn into a particular animal, just something vaguely animalian, something that has animal parts. So they're kind of like like a werewolf that's shifting back and forth between human and wolf form so quickly that like they're not even turning fully into a wolf. They're just like turning their arm into a big claw and then scratching somebody and then turning it back into a human arm so they can like throw out a lightning bolt. That's pretty cool. Invoker. It's very similar to a wizard. They are a bit more strategic than a wizard, and they are originally designed to be divine casters, which means almost all of their abilities are holy themed. So if you like the idea of playing a wizard and having all this like controlling energy, but you want a more like you want more white and yellow in your particle effects, you go with Invoker. Shamans, I think, are one of the most interesting classes in the game. They are healers and leaders, but they have a spirit companion that does that they use as a like focus for all of their abilities, and they're extremely similar. If anybody has played Final Fantasy XIV, they're very similar to 14's Scholar class, in that they have like a little summon buddy that's out in the field fighting while they're in the back lines. And you can do things like if an ability normally says, you know, target an enemy within 5 squares, you can target it within 5 squares of yourself or within 5 squares of your companion spirit. So that's pretty cool. Lots of spectral spirits in their movesets. They're, you know, summoning spirits out of the air to tie up their enemies and stuff like that. Sorcerer, again, one that's pretty much identical to a wizard, but where wizards are controllers and focus on sorcerers just beat the shit out of warlock. Warlocks have a very like just lots of like fire and lightning. Have a little anything for you. I will say, they are the most micromanagement mechanical class in the game. They have, you choose one of like 4 archetypes, but every single archetype has management. One of them is you pick sun, moon, or stars, and they go in that order, and then every time those have it's fucking bullshit. Don't take so.
I want to be a double sorcerer. Really... No, I'm kidding.
Wardens are cool. Wardens are druid. When they attack, they like wrap their club in fire or have like rocks. And they're a defender class, which means they're great at, I think, that is a defender class, but specializes in fighting spellcasters, not melee enemies. Every other defender is great against melee enemies, but struggles a little bit against casters. Wardens are blind. We're starting to get into the classes that were kick, but again, you can choose the flavor text of that however you want. Battlemind is a defender that functions by making a like telepathic network of yourself and all of your allies, and then essentially like sharing senses with each other to help you fight the enemies.
They are a HUD as a physical being.
Yeah, they're a fucking video game HUD. They're Master Chief's helmet.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, they're actually
Did
very
you want to play
cool.
Cortana? Because you can play Cortana.
One of the things is they are a class that has augmentable abilities, which means they have fewer powers that they get, but every power they get has 3 different variations depending of how much oomph you put into it. So it's just kind of a different play style. It's pretty cool. Monks, we all know what monks are. Some things I noticed that were pretty cool about them. Very few of their attacks target AC. Most of their attacks target one of the saves, which means they're good at hurting enemies that other physical characters are going to have trouble hurting. They also, every single monk ability comes with both an attack and a movement. So they're supposed to be zipping all over the place as they're fighting. One attack is like, you jump 15 feet across and kick an enemy in the face. And one is like, you do a somersault to avoid attacks as you move across the battlefield to get positions to kick an enemy in the face. Whatever. They do some psychic stuff and like telekinetic stuff in addition to their martial arts, so that's pretty cool. Scion, it is our traditional psychic spellcaster, so they focus on psychically manipulating enemies and telekinesis and stuff like that. They're a controller, so very similar gameplay style to like a wizard, but again, they have that augmentable ability thing, which means it's kind of like a wizard if you could choose whether you want to cast fire or a Fyra or a Fyraga. Their attacks all focus on like manipulating space-time and mentally assaulting their enemies and stuff, so that's pretty cool. We have like 4 left. We're getting there. I promise. There's a lot of them, but they're all really cool. So Rune Priest is the next one.
And since you said, since Battle Mind, none of these have been in the character builder.
Yeah. So Rune Priests are... We'll go over character builder later. You guys don't need it right now.
Okay.
Rune Priests are similar to clerics. Actually, I hesitate to say that. They're mechanically a little bit similar to clerics in that they have healing and they have buffs and stuff, but they are designed to be frontline fighters, and all of their moves involve you smack an enemy with your hammer and a giant glowing rune appears at the point of impact, and then that rune does either a buff on your allies or a debuff on the enemy or something like that. Another cool thing they have going on mechanically is that every one of their abilities has 2 variations, either Rune of Destruction or Rune of Protection. And so every ability does one of 2 things, and then depending on which of those 2 you use, you enter the stance of that ability for the rest of the turn. So if you do Destruction Stance, then all of your adjacent allies get an attack bonus. If you do Protection Stance, then all of your adjacent allies get a defense bonus. Pretty cool. Seeker, I thought, was a very interesting class. They're basically arcane archers mixed with druids. So they are the only spellcasting class that uses weapons as a focus, at least the only controller spellcasting class. So the way every one of their abilities is like, you shoot a bow, and then as the arrow hits the enemy, a like ice spirit bursts out of your arrow and like slashes the enemy across the face. Or you throw a shuriken at the enemy, and as it hits them, the ground beneath them turns to mud and swallows up their feet, or something like that. I also thought it was pretty cool that they have a built-in ability that lets them return thrown weapons back to themselves. So they are probably the only class in the game that really specializes in thrown weapons. Cool, if you're into your Captain America vibes. Artificer is very mechanically interesting. I think most of us know the idea of a item-based character. They do a lot of different unique gameplay things, but I think if you want to be an artificer, you probably know that you want to be an artificer. Their big thing is that first they can enhance their allies' magical items, which is going to be a big thing because since crafting is going to be a big thing in this campaign, you guys are all going to have a lot of magic items. Artificers can recharge magic items, which is the only way to do that other than just waiting a day. The other thing that's pretty cool about them is every one of their abilities does two things. So it will be like, you shoot your gun at an enemy, and when it hits, the bullet explodes and creates a flashbang that gives an ally an opening to attack. Or you point your wand at an enemy and you shoot a lightning bolt at it, and then after it hits the enemy, it bounces to your ally and becomes like a ring of lightning protecting them. A lot of their abilities involve targeting your allies' armor, and it enhances their armor and then bounces over to an enemy after targeting their armor. So very good combination offense and defense class. Last two, and these two kind of fit together nicely as a pair. You have the assassin, which unlike a lot of games where assassin is a kind of just like a variant on rogue, assassin in this game are basically shadow mages. They can physically manipulate shadows like fucking Shikamaru from Naruto. They can slip into shadows and slip out of shadows. They can force their enemies' shadows to come alive and wrap them up. Their big mechanical thing is they have something called the Assassin's Shroud, which is a marker that you place on enemies, and I think you can put down one every turn on any enemy. You just keep stacking these markers as the battle goes on, and then anytime you're ready, you cash in all of the Assassin's Shrouds on an enemy all at once to do massive damage. So the more you stack them up, the more damage you do when you cash them in. And then the last one is the one that I didn't have time to finish, even though it's my favorite class in the game, and that is Sword Mage, which I think is very interesting because Sword Mage is actually a defender class. They, the way they fight is, well, their attacks themselves probably wouldn't surprise you. It's a lot of you swing your sword and a spell comes out of your sword at the same time you hit an enemy. Pretty self-explanatory. But mechanically, they're very interesting because they focus on stacking all of these Aegis sigil on enemies, and any enemy that's marked with a sigil has to focus on you. I mean, that's the whole thing of a defender is you're pulling aggro. But a lot of their spells have different effects based on whether or not an enemy has a sigil on them. So it'll be, this normally it is just you slash an enemy and a burst of ice comes out of your sword, but it might be if you slash an enemy and that enemy has your sigil on them, then the ice comes out of your sword and freezes their legs in place. Something like that. And guys, we've done it. There's so many classes, but we've gone through them all, and they're all very cool. So I'm hoping each of you had one of those things that I listed that kind of shouted out to you and sounded interesting. So, who wants to go first? Aeneas, are you available?
Hello.
Hi. What's shouting out to you, Aeneas?
I'm kind of digging assassin just because you said shadowbender and I was like, cool, I'm gonna be a shadowbender.
Shadowbender is very cool, and it does seem kind of right up your alley. So, I was about to write down Shadowbender.
Cool.
I
We got
I
Salim Bradley
do
on our team.
I do have a question though.
Mhm.
You had mentioned at one point that you were playing around with the idea that there would be some kind of system involved with, like, we would get some kind of perk or otherwise have some kind of element attributed to our characters if we decided to pick some kind of disability. I have been playing around with the idea of my character being blind. Will I be a bad assassin if I
Ooh.
choose to be blind?
No, actually, that would be great if they are also for a Shadowbender. That feels very appropriate.
I know, that's why, like, as soon
That
as you
could be
said it, I
very
was like,
cool.
yes!
I say go with it, and we'll. I mean, it's a very interesting idea. We will do that idea. I will work with you to find the way that works best mechanically and stuff like that to make the most interesting and fun character within that. But I love that idea.
Fantastic.
So I think what I'm going to do is each person, I'm going to have you pick your class, and then we're going to do your build, and then we're going to do your power source. And I'm going to skip armor and weapon. I had that in here originally, but that's not like super important. Assassin, build. So, assassin, you need to pick one of the two archetypes. Bleak Disciple, you have studied the raw stuff of Shadow, and you can use your abilities to manipulate and control the shadows. At your command, shadows become physical objects. Da, 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 da. Or Night Stalker, which I think focuses a little bit more on terror and big damage. So, in your case, you definitely want Bleak Disciple because you want to focus on the shadow magic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so Bleak Disciple, and that will have a preferred like archetype that goes with it. So I'll just do that. Oh, hey, that's your phone. I thought that was my phone.
Hey, Brian, can you switch over to the other tab if you're typing something else? Because you're still on the character creator.
This? You see it now? Is my screen frozen?
Yeah, maybe your screen is frozen because I'm still just seeing the D&D character builder.
Let's stop streaming and restart streaming. Okay. So the last thing, Aeneas, is I want you to pick the power source that your character gets their powers from, and you're going to choose one of three categories: either internal, divine, or planar. And I'm thinking for you, you probably want to go with planar. Internal is it's the anime power source. It's your Dragon Ball Z, your Naruto. The power comes from inside them, from rigorous training and all that stuff. Divine would mean you have an Aeon patron that gives you power. And planar means your power comes from one of the parallel dimensions that overlap each other in the Ever Realm. Specifically, one of those dimensions is called Shadowfell, and it is the world of the dimension of darkness. So, I feel like your character probably is tied to the Shadowfell in some way and draws their magic from that. But you also could do something where you say that, like, your character has a divine power source and has one of the darkness-themed Aeons that is their patron, and that they worship, and that grants.
I was actually going to ask about divine purely because, like, for some reason I see the word aeons and I immediately assume, like, all of those are good things, but, like, if...
So that would be a candidate. We have one in here called Torfra, be a good candidate. And then the Night Hound, I just realized I have one that's called the Night Hound and one that's called the Night Mother, I'm pretty sure.
Both are good.
And then I also God of the Fae, the queer, the occult, and the unexpected turns of fortune. You guys will see that what I'm doing with these is I'm kind of giving them domains similar to the way that those things are done in like Greek mythology, where, you know, Athena is like the god of war, but is also the god of merchandise, and is also just a lady with a cool spear, and is also the god of owls, I think. Like, they have all kinds of different things that are associated with them. So, Aeneas, are you kind of leaning towards doing one of these aeons?
Yeah,
we
so
we
I'm
can
actually...
pick the aeon later. We can, like, look through Pinterest and find a cool creature or whatever.
Yeah, I'm definitely not, like, I haven't, like, settled on one of the Aeons specifically, but I'm definitely leaning more towards Aeon because I'm probably going to play around with the element of I have, you know, patroned them for my powers or whatever, and then at some point I really pissed them off, and that's why I'm blind now. They took my sight, and I'm trying to get back in their good graces.
That's very cool. Okay, so that is it for your character right now. Let's do next person's class. The next person we have on here alphabetically is either Kevin or Jeff. Which comes first, J or K?
J.
Okay, Jeff. Hey, Jeff.
Hello.
Preemptively doing well.
I am thinking about Warden. Warden seemed like it called my name.
Now, when you say wooden,
Warden
Warden.
with a
And not druid.
I'm
Wotan.
thinking about the wooden class.
Odin class.
And that's school.
Okay. Oh no, that's not good. Don't. Come on. We can do better than this.
You don't like my choice?
No. Sorry, my my thing.
Oh.
My thing didn't drop in good. Okay. So, I'm gonna go back to the character selector here. I'm going to pull up Warden.
Hey, Bren, I think your screen may have frozen. Or
All right,
at
let's
least
do this
me.
thing again.
All right, back from the start.
Okay. All right, I should be screen sharing again. Jeff, can you see my screen?
Yeah. I'm seeing it.
Okay, so as you guys show interest in a class, I'll give you some more information about that class. So wardens can take on bestial or tree-like forms to enhance their defense. That's actually kind of that's where their role as defender comes in, because I think they only have pretty light armor that they wear. They only wear like leather and hide armor, but they they buff themselves up with all these druidic armor enhancements. And let's see, I can't remember how they their aggro ability is pretty cool. They are one of the defenders that, rather than picking a single target that they can aggro at a time, they can aggro any enemy that is adjacent to them. So theoretically, up to 8 enemies.
This is one of those questions where I don't know what's going on, but I'm too embarrassed to ask. What does the word aggro mean?
I think it's short for aggravate. It's an MMO term for get an enemy pissed at you so that it focuses all of its attacks at you instead of your allies. And that's the role of defenders in this game, is that defenders have abilities that draw an enemy's attention. So whereas most defenders pick a single enemy to draw the attention of, Warden can draw the attention of many enemies, but only the enemies that are adjacent to them, which means they are kind of required to always be on the front line and always be next to as many enemies as possible to keep those enemies locked on them. They're basically like giant magnets moving around the battlefield, slurping up enemies.
What a metaphor you got there, Brent.
Thank you. Okay, so Warden, you're leaning in that direction? That feels good to you?
Yeah, I'm liking Warden.
Okay, so you've got 4 options for build. Earth Warden, you draw primal power through the link with the land. They do not give you a lot of. Let's go with actually these. So you've got 4 options for different archetypes here. Earth Strength is you get to add your Constitution modifier to your defense, and anytime you use Second Wind, which is your self-healing ability, you get a bonus to your armor for the next turn. So that's a good tanking one. Life Spirit, you add your Wisdom to your defense. In addition, anytime you use Second Wind, an ally within 5 squares of you gets to heal. So you kind of share the healing around. Stormheart, you add Constitution again, and anytime you use Second Wind, you slide an enemy. So that is focusing on repositioning enemies and keeping them where you want them. And then Wild Blood, you can add Wisdom to your AC, and when you use Second Wind, each enemy marked by you takes additional penalties to their attack rolls. So another kind of defensive one, but it's better for defending the people around you rather than yourself. Which of those are you leaning towards for like a plate style?
Maybe I should quickly assess what the composition of the rest of the party is.
Okay.
Is there going to be anybody else who's thinking about kind of a healing class?
I will say we need a healer. If no,
I'm
healer,
thinking of being a healer.
Okay.
I'm gonna do something like a bard, but I'm not sure yet.
I'm thinking maybe Earth Strength. I was thinking kind of on the other page. I think you had different like planar energy sources.
Oh
And
yeah.
I was thinking, maybe this is getting ahead of you. Sorry.
No, I mean that's the next thing. So yeah, let's do that.
I think planar is probably the right choice, but then there's a variety of options that I don't recall. But I was thinking sort of maybe kind of an ice/water, if there's no ice option.
This world is not very defined yet, so we can if you want an ice plane, there's an ice plane. Okay, no, I like that. So going with kind of a cold themed warden.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Kind of an Arctic warrior vibe. I like that. So you'll have a lot of attacks that involve like wreathing your weapon in ice.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Okay. So we've just done Jeff, and after Jeff, the next person alphabetically would be Kevin. Unless anybody else wants to go, I guess let's go with Kevin. Okay.
Seeker.
Okay, well that was easy. Yeah, so Seeker is the one that's kind of like an arcane archer, but nature and spirit themed.
Yeah. I want to kind of a focus on flight,
Ooh, okay.
and I want it to be insectoid themed. So I want to have like an ornithopter, and I want to shoot like stingers.
Do you want your character to be insectoid?
Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool.
I'm Beedrill.
I approve.
Are you a Pokemon?
What's the red Pokemon that looks like they have like pincers?
Sizor?
No, that's the one with.
Shit, I think I can visualize it. Is it not Sizor?
It's the evolution of Sizer.
Yeah, because Scyther is the regular bug one. I thought Scizor was the metal one. Am I just bad at Pokemon again?
this one?
Yeah, it's Scizor.
Okay.
Scizor, yeah, I'm Scizor.
Okay, that's great.
Okay.
I have my own wings, but I also have an ornithopter.
I love this. Okay, this is very cool. So, build. There are two archetypes within Seeker. You can either be vengeful, which is a little bit more of a focus on DPS, or protective, which is self-explanatory.
How do we? I want to balance out with current builds people have. Are we more like? Do we need a damage dealer?
We don't have a damage dealer yet.
I feel like with my focus on like stingers and stuff, vengeful's the right choice.
Okay, cool. So next,
I would also like to have a focus. This is flavor text stuff, but I would also like to have a focus on. I am like a scout because I can like fly.
Mhm.
So like I am not the one exploring ancient ruins, but I am the one when shards appear, I am contracted to like go underneath the shards because I can fly with the ornithopter and like scout like are there any ruins on the bottom?
Oh, that's very cool. Okay,
So I find things.
So power source. We've got the three power sources. Internal, divine, or planar. I think with your character, it might actually be most interesting if his power source is
I was thinking internal or planar.
internal.
I was thinking internal also.
Now we can still do the thing where your character has a connection to spirits, and so you know their connection to spirits comes from an internal power.
My idea is that like on the surface, there's nothing like magical about what's happening other than the fact that I'm a 6 foot tall insect. Right? So it's like it kind of like has this internal sense that it makes. It's like, oh yeah, they're wings and he beats them.
How about because
But
their
the
whole
ornithopter is clearly not possible, but it feels like it could be possible.
How about to kind of basically the question is let's look at a power for Seeker. They've got let's look at a level 3 power. See, a lot of these, what I'm leaning towards is you literally you have a bunch of different like insect eggs or different kinds of like creatures attached to like sacks that you put on your arrows,
Yeah.
and then they pop out when you attack.
Yeah.
So one of these is you hit them with an arrow, and then it calls forth a spiritual scorpion. We just get rid of the word spiritual. You got a scorpion tied to your arrow.
Yeah. I like this. It's very like every single power I have, I will flavor theme it insect. Hello, Maverick. How you doing, buddy? You look stiff.
Okay, so that is class for Heaven.
Is there anything else you need from me?
Not immediately.
Just listen to everyone else then.
I see. I mean, we're going to do lots more stuff. Like we'll have you choose your physiology and stuff. We're just gonna do everyone's class first. Next up, alphabetically, would be Mike.
Cool.
What are you leaning towards? It sounded like you were leaning towards something in the healing family.
Yeah, I was leaning towards a bunch of all the other classes that have already just been made, but I'm gonna do something different. I would like to go for Artificer.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, now Artificer has a lot of interesting mechanics, but oh well, yeah, obviously. Okay, yeah. So Artificer is very cool. You had a chance to read through all the bullet points I wrote down for them.
Yeah, I got through all the bullet points. I kind of have like a makeshift build in my head of kind of like where I would want them to go thematically. So hopefully I can like pick stuff that will align with that.
Sure, go for it.
Is it
It's in the fridge.
Got
It's in one of the small Tupperware things. Okay, so Artificer. Let's look at what the build options for Artificer are. For one of the last classes. Okay. So there are 3 builds: Battlesmith, Tinkerer, or Warrior Forged. Battlesmith, you weave strands of magic and thread into items and allies. With these infusions, weapons become stronger, armor becomes tougher, and allies become more durable. Tinkerer, using whatever materials are on hand, you empower weapons and armor, and even create allies. So this is a little bit more of a like air quotes summoner. You're dropping down little drones and stuff. Warrior Forge focuses on fighting from a distance, using implement and ranged weapons to deliver punishment. So a little bit more of a DPS when you're not doing healing and stuff. What are you leaning towards?
I think I like Battlesmith.
Okay. Do you have any ideas for where you're thinking about going with this character so far? Do you want to do Power Source? Are you ready for Power Source?
Yeah, I think we can do Power Source. So when you talk about a Power Source being something that's internal, could it also be something that happens because of like intense research or intense?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, yeah, I think I'd be okay with going with internal as opposed to just divine for the way that they got their power.
Okay, so they are literally like an engineer.
So what I'm thinking for my character, and let me know if this is like too far outside of the constraints of the system, is that they're an alchemist, and they've trained for a very, very long time to basically create life, and in the process kind of stumbled upon the kind of answer for extending their own life, but in doing so did something real bad to them. I'm not sure if that ends up sounding more like divine intervention took place or if that still hits.
So think about this when we go towards physiology, because you can do like anything with this system I have set up. Like you can make any kind of creature. I love the idea of your character being undead.
Yeah, so if that's something that I can do, then I think I'm going to stick with it
That
being
would be very
internal.
cool. And
Yeah.
that's definitely an option, yeah.
Okay.
Morgan is not available, correct?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything from
Yeah.
Morgan just yet.
He hasn't texted me back either. Yeah.
All right, Zai, you are up.
All right. So you know me, I'm gonna be a little difficult.
Yeah, no, I want to go through it.
I want to be a druidic bard.
Yeah, we can do that.
So instead of and instead of like, I mean, I'm probably still gonna want to do some weapon strikes, but like, I want like the music that I make or the bits of lines of songs I like to have a effect in game that usually takes the form of a beast. So there's this one song by it's a synthwave song by Carpenter Brute, but has lyrics to it, and there's like one part I was thinking of. The lyrics are, "Beware the beast within your heart when you're dancing in the dark." And at that point, I would want basically a werewolf type of thing to come out of an enemy's chest and start attacking them.
Yeah, no. So
I want to do that kind of stuff.
So I'm looking through bard powers now. So there's two things you could do. One is we can go to just bard and just flavor text, like do flavor text adjustment to make it more druidic. The other is we could do a hybrid class where you take powers from both bard and druid.
Okay. He's like, I'm cool with like the part where it says bard is exceptionally good at diplomacy, but I would rather it be like a chance type of thing. Like either I'm really good with somebody with diplomacy or I'm really fucking terrible. You know, like somebody would really like a kind of music or really hate a kind of music.
Okay. This is very interesting. I want to know a little bit more about where you think you could go with what is a druidic bard and how? I mean, are we talking about a because kind of what I'm imagining is
so he's like a shock rocker from a alternate fantasy dystopian timeline. Imagine a world that is basically like a fantasy version of Metalocalypse, and this is Nathan Explosion, and when he says awaken, things awaken.
I like this. So how about instead of I mean, there are lots of classes, kind of like the Seeker class that Kevin is playing, that deal with having spectral creatures appear and do things. Do you think you want to go in that direction where a lot of your abilities involve like spectral creatures materializing?
Well, that's why I went with Druidic Bard, because the druid's signature ability, Wild Shape, I would want to do something like that, but it's not me. It's technically kind of disconnected from me. It's more connected to the music.
I think we should do a hybrid class. And okay, so there's two options. And it basically just comes down to what you're more interested in as a gameplay style. I think we should either do a hybrid class of bard and druid. So you're going to have some of the druidic spells and animal form attacks, and you'll be able to turn into animal form and stuff like that. And then you'll have some of the bards. Bard abilities are, the bard is designed to be a healer, leader, team player, so lots of buffs and stuff. I'm kind of thinking it might be better if we just go with druid and we just say your character is in fiction a musician who is mechanically a druid.
Well, the reason why I wouldn't say bard is because I don't want it to be like my character is not a striker. They do have things that could strike. The class does have things that could strike. But that's just one of a few different things that it could do. So if, for example, I did some song lyrics that had something to do with I don't know, let's do Beatles. Time is on my side. It speeds up our allies. It
I like
speeds up the
that.
party.
Okay, so I think we should do a hybrid. I think we should do a hybrid
Yeah,
bard
that's
druid.
what I was thinking.
Hybrid
Schizo bard, druidic bard, whatever.
bard and druid.
Because like the reason like I like bard because of just the musical ability and the range that could come from that musical ability, but it feels very limited in the sense that like I mean, like traditional D&D, you're a bard. You get on the battlefield and start singing your song, and then somebody smacks you, and then you got no more turns until the rest of your party is able to mop up the fight. I don't want to do that. That sounds boring to me. But I do want to be able to buff allies as a primary type of thing, but also do strikes when, or like summon something that can protect me through my music. When I get into situations where, like I just described, somebody's about to hit me and I'm about to go down for the rest of the fight.
Yeah, no, I think this is very interesting. We'll definitely have to spend some time filling out like more of the figuring out what kinds of power choices work the best for you and stuff. But I think this is a very neat character. I would love to see what we can do with that. Now, power source. I don't think that internal makes the most sense here. I think that maybe divine, where you have an Aeon that is granting these things you say like physical manifestation. But we could talk about like where you would want to go with that, because one thing you could do is if you don't like the idea of your character being like, a worshiper of some god, we could do something
Actually,
where
I don't have a super big problem with it if there is a Aeon who is like Dionysus.
oh yeah, totally.
Because Dionysus, the god that makes you crazy, the god of the wild, dance, party, drink, alcohol, but also like the wild itself, the wilderness, the woods, the animalistic side of things.
Yeah, no, I love that. I have one here called Gibeos that I have his traits listed as wilderness, freedom, hermits, the cycle of life, and farmers.
Farmers,
So
fuck farmers. I was with you until farmers.
well, yeah, but you don't have to be a fan of all the things. Every time, I actually love the idea of your character just traveling around the world and meeting other followers of this Aeon and being like, yeah, that's great. And then you meet a follower of the Aeon that's a farmer and you're like, fuck you.
You get monthly mailings for future farmers of the Everrealm.
Another one I have here is Astra, which is an Aeon representing curiosity, exploration, life changes, and rangers. Let's see.
I like Gideos so far.
I like Gibeos, and I think that is a god, an Aeon that I could give a lot of personality to and make very interesting. I also was going to say I like the idea of your character having an Aeon that's their power source, but instead of them being like a devout worshiper of this Aeon or whatever, the Aeon is a fan of you. And the Aeon heard your music while they were like flying overhead one day and was like, hell yeah, I can rock out to that. And
Awesome.
started just like maybe your character doesn't even know that that's their patron or something. You could go either direction, but I think we can explore what your character's relationship with Gibeos is, because
Okay.
I think there's
Yeah,
a lot
I
of
don't like
fun
playing
to do
true
with that.
believers, so being fuck farmers works.
Yes. Okay, so that is Zai. Now we're going to make everyone's race. So, or everyone's physiology. The reason I specify physiology instead of race is because it doesn't have to be something that your character was born with. Your character could have 3 arms, but be just like a biological human that just like sewed an extra arm onto themselves. We would still treat that as a physiological trait. Yeah. So, the way we're going to select it is let me kind of scroll down here. I have species at the top, but I kind of think it makes sense if we do that last, where you choose all these things that feel right to you, and then we kind of put all those pieces together and talk about what your species is. But origin. So every character is going to have to choose an origin. There's aberrant, which is basically like Lovecraftian, creepy, slimy tentacle shit. Elemental or planar, which again, it's not limited to the 4 classical elements. We're also talking about like the element of light, the element of darkness, and we can get a little more abstract if you want. Fae. And I have divine in here, but I'm actually going to take that out because that is going to mix in with elemental / planar. Natural, which means you evolved on a world that's somewhat similar to Earth. So humans, orcs, deers, trees, birds. And then shadow, which is also going to be a subset of planar. So I'm going to actually Fae, Divine, and Shadow are all going to be subsets of planar. So I will move those over. So basically, you choose where did your species come from, like what kind of world did your people evolve on, if evolution is even the right word for it. And then we're going to choose advantages, traits, and disadvantages. So every player gets 2 advantages. You do not need to take any traits. You do not need to take any disadvantages. If you take a disadvantage, you can take another advantage to balance it out. And then traits are things that I couldn't categorize as one or the other. So like, if you're undead, then your character gets hurt with radiant energy and healed with necrotic energy. And that's something that's like, I don't know if that's a good like, that's just a thing. It's just balance. So we've got a big old list here that we can go through with each of the characters. And then the last thing you're going to do is you're going to pick 1 or more power. One of the advantages is just extra racial power, so you can basically, there's a 1-to-1, you can just turn advantages into powers. And then the powers are things like Dragon's Breath, attack with quills, like gain energy out of an enemy's death, stuff like that. So, should we continue going in alphabetical order? Start back with Aeneas? So, Aeneas, we're going to look through advantages, disadvantages, stuff like that. One thing we could think about is, so I think there's 2 directions you could go. One is your character is a pretty standard humanoid, natural biological creature that has been drawing magic from the shadow plane and has gone blind because of that. Another option is that your character is a creature from the shadow plane, which is why they have shadow plane magic. And because they're from the shadow plane, they just don't have eyes.
Ooh.
Which of those do you think is more interesting?
I think I'm leaning towards the first one.
Okay. Da, 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 da. Okay, so where's our thing at here? So, what kind of origin do you think your character has? I'm guessing natural.
What does natural like specifically mean? Does it like have a certain definition in this context?
Nope. All of these are just tags that get applied because some abilities will say like does extra damage versus creatures with the natural tag, does extra damage with creatures with the shadow tag, stuff like that. So natural just means things that evolved in a Earth-like world. They are mammals mostly.
Yeah, natural seems fine then.
Human. Yeah. So we're looking at natural. Disadvantages. Now, if you are all the way blind, then I'm going to count that as 2 disadvantages because I think that has a lot of complications that's going to add into your life. So, or you know what? I think we're going to cancel it out. I'm going to give you blind and also tremor sense / echolocation. You can sense anything within 30 feet of you, regardless of normal rules of line of sight. However, you don't have normal eyesight, meaning you will not know what color something is. You can't read, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I'm totally into this because I basically was playing around with the idea that my character would probably see in the same way that Toph did if within like a certain distance, if that was possible. Just like she just feels the tremors and she gets like shapes and ideas,
Perfect.
almost as if she's Daredevil.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. So, do you think it is? So I don't think it would necessarily be tremor sense or echolocation. I think it is shadow sense. I think you sense like either things that are in shadows if it's in total darkness, or you sense the shape of shadows. So if somebody is standing in daylight 5 feet away from you, you can feel the shadow on his back and know where he is because of that.
Oh yeah, I really like that.
Okay, so you've got blind, you've got shadow sense. I think you have 3 advantages left. So ability score is a pretty catch-all one you can do. Fast movement. Scent could be fun. It's it does kind of the same thing that Shadow Sense is already doing, so it would maybe be redundant, but scent is fun because you can like track with it and stuff. Natural telepathy. Resilience makes you a little bit beefier. Hard to put down. Sleepless. I might maybe sleepless if your character is associated with darkness. Like they just never need to sleep. Hungerless, quadrupedal, construct, aquatic, gliding, which can evolve into flying.
I just need to mention that I absolutely love camouflage.
Because your character has to be naked?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, listen,
Like, hey
if
guys,
your
don't mind
character's
me.
a
Just gonna
chameleon,
shoot
and
this off real quick.
if your character's a chameleon, but they're wearing a fucking sombrero, people are still gonna see that.
Like, hey guys, you see that giant floating hat over there? Totally weird.
Exactly. Okay, so
So you said that I can have 2 more advantages or 3?
4 advantages total. So tremor sense is 1. And then I've got this whole list. If you want to look through this list yourself, it's on that document I posted. It's just kind of to the right of the starting point.
I'm kind of digging scent just because like both scent and danger sense, because I wouldn't mind the idea of my character essentially being like a walking alarm.
Give me a sense. Give me a second. Blind, we're going to have dark sense. You said danger sense?
Yeah.
I love that. That's very good. So far I have blind, dark sense, danger sense. Do you have anything else that you were leaning towards?
Yeah, if I can go ahead and throw scent on top of that just to round out like the fact that I'll be able to see lots of things coming, then I'm
I
cool
love
with
it.
that.
Yeah, and you're sensomatic. Okay, so
You need tremor sense?
So that is 3. You can have 1 more. Do you want to go with just an ability score bonus? Or yeah, ability score bonus. You probably don't want to be large. You could say that your character is small, but I kind of think that it's better if your character is like physically just very normal.
Yeah, I was thinking about small, but I'd be fine. Like, I'd kind of rather the character be more average built just because I don't want to, like, roll too hard in the I'm just super tiny and hard to
Sure.
lock down.
What about maybe oh, we didn't put down sleepless. What do you think about sleepless?
Yeah, I was actually, I like the idea of sleepless.
I think that's perfect. It fits very well with what your character already has. Origin is natural. Now powers. So we're gonna look over here at the power table. I think a very natural candidate would be Dark Reaping, which you deal more damage after you kill an enemy. Shifty lets you reposition a lot. There is Dark Fire, which might be a good natural power for you. You can just kind of manifest black flames into being, which feels very appropriate for what your character is. Some different like hunter things, Furious Assault.
I like Darkfire. I don't think I'm going to go with Shifty just because it feels too similar to Avalon.
Sure. Do you like Dark Fire or Dark Reaping? Dark Fire being the fire attack, Dark Reaping being like you gain power from death.
I think I want to go with the fire.
All right, cool. And then that is basically the last of it. Now, the last thing is we come up with a name, or at least like a small excerpt about what kind of species you are. I think what we say is, do you want to be human or human-like? Earth is one of the shards in this world, so if you want to be human, you can do that. Or you could be human-like and just say, you know, my character is like a human, except, you know, they have extra long earlobes or whatever.
I think I'm just going to be a straight up human again.
I actually really like the idea of just a human. Human, but with their dark master.
Yes.
God, I'm imagining. All right, I want to pull up the person that I just pictured. This is what I just pictured. He's a grumpy boy. No, we would come up with something that's cooler looking than that, because that guy is the dorkiest looking villain. But cool. I like this. This is a very good, interesting character thing. Okay, so Jeff, you are up next.
Okay.
So you are going kind of ice themed. Now, anytime a character has a planar power source, a very natural option is to say that their species is from like the plane of ice, and that's why they have that connection. But you could also say your character is just a normal humanoid species and happens to have some other connection to the plane of ice, and I've got a whole list of how that could happen.
Could you explain what the plane of ice actually is?
Sure. So, the idea is that there are, in the Everrealm, there are a lot of different dimensions of reality, kind of stacked on top of each other, and every shard exists in all of those dimensions simultaneously, in the same way that, like, you know, a person has both length and depth. A person has, you know, a gravity trait of, you know, how much they weigh and what their gravitational pull is, and they also have heat and all those things. The idea is that in the Everrealm, because physics got all kinds of fucky once the shards ended up here, those different forces are kind of, they can be isolated, and in the place where they are isolated, that is that plane. So anytime something is cold, it's because that thing is closer to the plane of ice. Anytime something is hot, it's because it's closer to the plane of fire. Anytime you like see a fire, like if somebody has a campfire, that is a place where the two planes are overlapping. Does that kind of make sense?
So if somebody was from the plane of ice, what is that? Is that like a world which is extremely cold, or is that like just literally one endless thing of ice?
It's like a world that's very cold. It's have you seen Stranger Things?
No.
Okay. You would like it. Yes. So it's just a parallel dimension to the Everrealm. It is another part of the Everrealm that people in the physical space don't see. Now the two options would be your character. There's three options. One is your character was born in the plane of ice and ended up shifting into the plane of matter. One is your character is the descendant of somebody who did those things, and the third is your people were from a like an icy universe, but when they came over to the Everrealm, instead of landing in the plane of ice like they were supposed to, they kind of got mixed up and ended up in the plane of matter. So basically, how long has it been since you or your ancestors were in there is the question. Oh, and that is all assuming, of course, that your character is in fact a ice being, which I don't know if if that's the direction you want to go.
Well, yeah, I feel like I have experience being in a plane of ice of some kind.
Is that New York?
What? New York?
Yeah, because it gets really cold, right?
I guess. I don't know. It's not terribly different from Maryland.
No, okay.
And I also currently live in Connecticut, so. But yes.
Oh, well, see, I didn't know that.
There you go.
It's technically one plane.
But I think my character has experience being from a realm of ice, plane of ice, something icy.
So,
I'm ice experienced.
so do you want to say, let's see, where is it? Physiology. So, origin. We have to choose like what kind of creature your character is. Do we want to say that your creature is a planar being and is a being from the plane of ice?
So, what is if I was to grow up in a natural environment that was icy, then I would be falling in the natural category?
If you were just if your character is a Russian, they are natural.
Okay. I see. Or from New York, I guess.
Yes, you know.
Let's go with the actual plane of ice. Let's give me a solid ice background.
Okay, so I'm just gonna jot that down so I don't forget.
I'm just gonna watch your screen. Scroll down slightly. I think I have some sense. I was kind of looking at them the first go around to see if any popped out for me.
Natural telepathy, resilience, hard to put down, sleepless, hungerless, quadrupedal, construct, aquatic. Aquatic could be fitting in a kind of like penguin way.
How many of these do I choose?
2, and then more if you decide to take disadvantages.
Okay.
Pack
I'm
attack.
thinking one sort of needs to be elemental, right?
Yeah.
It sort of seems like it's almost like a must.
And then if you want, you could double down on that and get elemental absorption.
Yeah, maybe I'll go with just the elemental. I can still be hurt by ice, I think, but just I'm
Okay.
strong against it more or less. And then potentially what's resistance? Isn't there something called resistance? Is that
Natural
something?
resistance. You have a
Not
bonus
natural
on
resistance.
saving throw.
Or maybe resilience. Sorry. It's some
So
R word.
resilience is up here. Basically, you have a bit of extra HP that appears every time you get bloodied, which means you fall below half health. So it just makes you a little bit harder to kill. And the nice thing is that is you can use that like multiple times per day, just not more than once in the same encounter.
How about resilience and elemental then?
Okay. And
Or I said elemental, but you get what I mean.
Yep. Resilience and elemental. Do you want to look through the disadvantages?
Sure. I don't know them that well. Yeah, just scroll down, I guess, to them.
Yeah, so asthmatic, impious, which would be you have you're less capable of receiving divine benefit.
If your
crude
screen is
or mangled
up, please.
arms, clouded vision. Cold-blooded is not intended the way that your character is. Deaf, ravenous, creature of the sea, haunted, unsettling visage.
Can you wait? Oh, it worked. Hold on. I'm trying to. Can you scroll up or down just so I make sure that I'm actually seeing what you're seeing? Yeah, there you go. Okay. Um. Hmm. Any ideas popping out to you?
No, I don't know that your character really benefits from having any of these. It would be funny is your character going to be a guy?
I guess so. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go with that.
It would be kind of funny if your character was like asthmatic, but that's just because I always think that's funny.
I like it because I was already thinking that like even on a not cold area, for some reason my like breath is just like chilly. Like if somebody accidentally walked into my breath, I'm thinking that it could be interesting to kind of combine that with asthmatic.
You know what it could be? The explanation could be that your character is asthmatic because they're not used to this. Their body's not built for this plane's air, and this air is too hot for them. It's uncomfortable in their lungs.
Yeah, yeah. This damn air. All right, I'll go with asthmatic then.
Now, if you get asthmatic, you can have an extra advantage as well, which you could just take ability score if you want. Get like a +2 to whatever.
Yeah, why not?
What ability do you think your people have a bonus at?
That Earth Strength. I don't know whether you want me to be like accidentally min-maxing or something, but that Earth Strength supposedly gave me a bonus if I had Constitution, so.
Yeah, no, I was actually going to say con because I kind of envision
Just being durable.
yeah, ice creatures. I mean, when I think of when I think of things in fiction from a northern climate, you've got your, barbarians, you've got your polar bears, you've got generally they're like a hardy thing.
You got your New Yorkers.
New Yorkers from the terrible ice plane.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Oh.
Walking over here.
Oh my god, I forgot to do the thing right. Okay. So that's that is most of it. Last thing, we're gonna look at what your natural power is. I think the one that makes the most sense is Dragon Breath. Your character is able to breathe cold.
Oh yeah, that just makes too much sense given what I said earlier.
Yeah. Dragon Breath cold. All right. Kevin is up next. Now you already have an idea of species is bug.
Mm-hmm.
Origin. So we're looking at you would probably be either natural or aberrant. I think that maybe you would fall under aberrant. Okay. So physical traits we've got here. Do you think your character is particularly small or large? Okay.
Just weird.
Yes, that's true. So your character can have gliding for 1 upgrade or flying for 2 upgrades.
Flying.
Okay. You want to... I feel like with a bug, it would make sense for them to have some disadvantages, just because they, have very different kinds of bodies.
Yeah.
So, food or mangled arms, that could make sense. That would be kind of a pain, considering your character has to use weapon attacks for everything.
Yeah.
Clouded vision, you're all ranged attacks. That wouldn't be very good for you. Cold-blooded, I think a lot of insects are cold-blooded, aren't they? I think cold-blooded might make sense. Yeah. I really... Oh. Also, unsettling visage. Unsettled scary face. People don't like looking at your face.
Let's go with cold blood.
Okay. Cold-blooded, and then you get one more, just an ability score? Or do you want to look through... natural athlete, dark vision. Okay. Cold-blooded, dark vision. Natural powers. We got lots of options on here. So infernal quills would actually probably be a good one for you. You're covered with some kind of substance that hurts creatures and poisons them. And I think for a bug that would be a kind of...
I think that.
Okay. Natural powers, infernal quills. All right, we're moving at a good clip now. Who's up next? Mike. So your character is this artificer. Oh, and we wanted to go with undead.
Yeah, I'm specifically choosing undead for a few reasons, but yeah, I would like undead.
I think this is very cool. So what I'm leaning towards is so there is an origin called animated, which so there's 2 ways we could go. One is we say your character, actually 3. You could be aberrant because you're a Lovecraftian abomination. You could be animated because your character has been reanimated or reanimated themselves. Or you could be natural, but I don't think that makes as... I mean, the justification for natural would be like your character was human before they became like something else. But I think either aberrant or animated, and I think it should be animated.
So I was thinking that they were a particular species that became this through research, but also kind of like as an accident. Like they didn't mean to become what they became. So does that still fit under the... Is that only aberrant, or could that still be natural?
I was thinking both. And so again, these have not very many mechanical effects. They're mostly just tags that will determine like which abilities affect you. Aberrant basically is everything that is like very unsettling and creepy, and animated is everything that isn't living. So I think your character is both aberrant and animated.
Yeah, I would definitely think so. Like, so even if they were like, I was thinking of them as a goblin that this happened to.
Ooh, or yeah, a goblin-like creature. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's cool. Okay. So now we're gonna do physiology, and we can get really fun with this. First things first. It doesn't count for anything, but
yeah, I think they have to take inverted
to.
radiant necrotic energy. Yeah, they have to take that.
Yes. Inverted radiant Next,
Also, for a disadvantage, I'm gonna take Unsettling Visage.
all right.
I understand what I'm setting myself up for there, but I don't think that there's any way that what happened to them didn't change them to the point that it's like physically off-putting. Like
Sure. No, I
maybe
totally agree.
not quite all the way a Nosferatu, but pretty close.
Are we continuing with they thems for this character?
I haven't decided yet,
Okay.
but right now in my head it's a orc lad, but
Sure.
or a goblin lad. I'm not sure yet though.
So, I just feel like so many things, just so many of the disadvantages work for your character. Like, I kind of feel like maybe Shadowbound. Your character is vulnerable to light. Maybe Ravenous, if you want to go the zombie angle. Haunted, I don't think is what your character is, but I really want somebody to tank Haunted.
So I almost took that as well, and I'm like, I'm not gonna be haunted and be a go and have a lame leg. Like I'm
Yeah.
not gonna take too many because some of the other advantages I think fit too much together. Also, since I had to take one of the neutral ones, I may think about haunted. Just right now, I don't think it's fair to stack too much against him yet.
Yeah.
I definitely, as far as a natural advantage, want to make sure that I take small.
Mm-hmm. So, right now, because you took a disadvantage, you can have 3 advantages. So,
Okay.
small, and then you can have 2 more.
What do healing surges do?
Healing surges are very important. So, every character has a number of healing surges. Generally, it's going to be somewhere between like 5 and 15. Oh, wow. It just occurred to me, I have no idea if that is true or not. Let me look at this character sheet to see.
No, I did not see the stream.
Come on. Where's these healing surges at? Hit points, healing surges. Okay, 7. Yeah, so 7 is a pretty normal number of healing surges for somebody to have. That is essentially the total number of times in a day that you can be healed. You can, as a standard action, you can, once per encounter, as a standard action, you can spend a healing surge to heal yourself. But like obviously that is not a preferable way to spend your turn. Also, like if say you have a cleric in the party and the cleric casts healing word on you, they don't provide you with healing. They allow you to spend a healing surge and then give a bonus to the amount that you heal. So that your healing surges is the maximum amount of healing you can receive in a day.
Okay. I think looking more over, because so you said I could take 2 more, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think just for the sake of what this character is, I would like to also choose gaseous form.
Okay, you can sometimes take on a gaseous form that certainly fits. Do you want to take for your last one? Do you want to take the construct pack because that gives you sleepless, hungerless, and inoculated?
Yeah, but how would that work since I can only be healed by necrotic energy?
I would just remove the immune to radiant thing.
Yeah, then that would be the only other one that fits. Yeah, I would take construct pack.
Okay. All right. So that is very cool. Natural powers. Dark Reaping.
I like Dark Reaping, but I was gonna go with Goblin Tactics.
Ah, shit, I zoomed in. Goblin Tactics. Every time you are missed by a melee attack, you can shift. Yeah, okay. If you take another disadvantage, you could get another one.
Yeah, no, I know, and I'm not taking Haunted. I'm not doing it.
Well, you could take Haunted. You could also take Ravenous or Shadowbound. So, are we good?
What would Ravenous mean for my character?
Oh, you
being
know what? You
undead?
can't take Ravenous because your character doesn't eat.
Yeah, no, I'm all good.
Okay, perfect. So that just leaves Zai. So, Zai, your character, you are imagining as mostly humanoid, right?
Yeah. I think that my character would be a human who just comes from an alternate version of Earth.
Okay. Okay, so human.
With blackjack and hookers. No, I'm kidding. Oh, okay. So it finally showed up. I've been waiting for your stream to pop up because I couldn't see like all the stuff that you guys are talking about, but now I can. Okay.
Oh no.
Well, remember, you can also see those. All of this stuff is on the document, which is.
Not all of it.
Here.
At least I didn't think all of it was.
Yeah, you gotta scroll
Maybe
around. It's. Okay.
Maybe I'm just on the race and physiology part then.
So.
Did you want to start there, or where are we starting?
So, if your character's human, that answers a few things. First of all, your origin is obviously natural. Now, natural traits, natural advantages. Humans, if you're not any kind of like special human, then you would just take ability score bonus twice.
Okay, I can't find that on the document, so I'm gonna have to look at the stream. Okay, natural advantages.
Okay, so you can take ability score bonus twice. That is what human, like the D&D race, would do. You could be small, you could be large, you could take an extra racial power, you could move fast, but any of these that you choose, it should be something that is like a physical fact about your character that makes sense in some way. So don't just take it because,
How many of these do I get to take?
2 total. And any that you don't spend, you can just spend on the extra ability points.
All right, resilience is going to be one of them.
Ooh, okay. Because he's hardened because of his life in the apocalypse.
Well, it's just because of the blood. I mean, what makes a rocker rock more hard than being covered in blood?
That's true. Okay.
What's up? I was thinking about inoculated, because I spent a lot of time in bars and partying, so I got real fucked up and have a pretty high tolerance.
I can see that. Okay, so do you want to go with resilience and inoculated?
Yeah, I think I'll do that. No, I'm not gonna do inoculated because that's too temperamental an instance. Like, unless I'm fighting a very specific thing that has something that's poisoning me or something, then it's not really gonna have much of a difference. I think what?
Kevin was saying, well, but what if the first boss is just a giant bottle of alcohol?
Well, then we're no, I'm just kidding. I guess I'll take the top one. The one that was like the basic human one. Yeah.
Yep. And then you get one power. Now, most of these your character pretty clearly does not have if you are human. One that would make sense is combat agility. After the triggering enemy completes the action, you shift. So this is basically every time takes an action that provokes. Okay, so every time an enemy like attacks you or something, you can do like a quick retreat. It's a pretty nice. Oh no, that's not true. Sorry, I misread it. So combat agility would be,
Opportunity attack.
yeah, it's like a kind of opportunity attack that lets you move and attack, which you can't usually do. There's also shifty, which is very powerful because shifting allows you to move without getting an attack of opportunity, which is a very important thing in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Predatory Eye. If you have combat advantage, you deal extra damage. I feel like Predatory Eye might make sense with his history. Furious Assault could make sense. Second Chance, your character's just has been through a lot and has a lot of natural luck. Accuracy.
Keep scrolling down a little bit.
Fade away. Yeah, most of these are not relevant to humans. Iron Mind is one that could be on a human.
How many of these do I get?
Just one.
All right, I can't see these on my screen. Can you scroll down a little bit more?
Sure.
I just want to see what the rest of them are.
There are terribly many like shifty or one of them that gives you a benefit. Hold on, I think I saw one that I thought seemed like it would make sense for you. An accuracy. Might make character because basically you can
They have to re-roll the attack. I think I'm going to do the one that was at the top, the combat agility, I think it was. Yeah.
Sure. All right. For characters, we're going to very quickly just do some. So next up is vocation. So an important thing in this campaign is going to be the downtime when you're not fighting. And my goal is that this campaign will take place over like 2 years or some like fairly large amount of time. And
game years or
in-game years. Probably 1 year human years. Okay. But like a fairly large period of time in game because it has that focus on the village and domestic life and just like the personal lives of your characters, and your vocation is a very important part of that. Now, that's not to say that your vocation doesn't also help you with fighting. In fact, it very much does. So, vocations fall generally under two camps. One is crafts. So you're making things, and the things you're making are generally going to be magic items that give each other bonuses. And magic items are very important. They give you like they are an integral part of character progression. The other, sorry, I'm on the wrong page. One type of vocation is crafts. There's also performances, which are like crafts, but instead of creating an item, you create an ability that you can use. And then the last are, I'm just gonna call these jobs. The last are jobs, and these are things where you're not making a physical product, but you are working on some kind of project that has like, a positive result at the end of that project. And these can be a little bit more abstract in how they work, but most of the time the way it's going to work is that you do your job, and at the end of your project you get you increase the renown, your own fame and the fame of the village a little bit, and also you get a trait that you can use renewably throughout the campaign. So you could say, well, my character's job is biologist, and this month, during my downtime, I'm going to do some research and write an essay on that like interesting kind of dragon that we were fighting last month, and I'm going to take that corpse that I collected from him and I'm going to like really dissect it and break down all the parts. And then at the end of that project, you come out of it with a trait that is like, intimate knowledge of dragon anatomy, which you can then use throughout the campaign to get advantages. So your vocation basically is your way outside of regular character progression to get new abilities and powers and traits and stuff, but also just represents your character's like life. So, Aeneas, you are going first. There are a lot of crafts. There are a lot of jobs. This list is not comprehensive. If you have a job in mind that's not on this list, there's a pretty good chance that, I'll be all right with it, as long as it kind of makes sense for the format of the game. Whatever it is, we have to be able to break it down to a dice roll at some point. So, if your character is like janitor, that probably doesn't make a lot of sense unless there's like a really big mess you have to clean up. Like, it has to be something we can break down into like goals. So Aeneas, what are you thinking?
And I have to pick. It's two between both crafts and vocations.
2 total.
And what are the vocations?
Sure. Vocations. Oh, so I renamed them to jobs because vocation is the list, the name for like the total thing. So, the jobs, basically any kind of academic or teacher, journalist. Because I know that Zai is not particularly into like this kind of thing. I was thinking that I was trying to come up with some other jobs that could be interesting, and I came up with one that was like a militia sergeant. Like maybe your project is you are getting a new, member of the militia into shape. And then also I have gathering jobs in here, but I wouldn't want these to be anyone's first choice because I don't think that they are. I think that they are interesting when paired with something else, but not terribly interesting on their own.
Hmm. This sounds kind of ridiculous, and it's not exactly on the list, but would I be able to stretch a job and basically claim, like, I guess teacher is closest, but I don't like teacher because it implies that, like, I'm trying to lead the children in a good direction. I really, really want my character to be the town's, like, resident hermit. Like, I live in the caves, I come out occasionally, the town children have stories about me and, like, generally stay away from me, and I don't know,
Okay.
occasionally I leave weird shit in people's trash cans.
I love that. I don't think that's teacher. Here's what I think that is. I think that is gardener.
Hermit.
I think it is gardener and maybe leather worker.
I'm totally fine with that. I was probably gonna go woodworking, but I think leatherworking is probably more useful.
No, I mean they're both useful. So if you went woodworking, you could make all kinds of like wooden equipment, but you can also make like, you know, pendants and talismans and stuff like that. And if you go with leatherworking, you can make, you know, leather armor, but you can also, you know, help make the leather wrappings on a weapon, or you could make shields and all kinds of
I
stuff.
think I'm gonna go with leatherworking.
Yeah.
Just
I love
because,
the
like, it
idea of
totally is
this-
useful, but I'm more just like, it's for goth purposes.
Yeah, no, I love the idea of this crazy hermit living in their cave with a with just, I don't know if you've ever seen a tanning facility, but they smell like the worst thing in existence.
Oh, absolutely. It's funny because when, like, I started thinking about jobs and vocations, I immediately pictured that I can't remember because it's been so long since I've played the game, but in the newest God of War game, there's like this small little shopkeeper that you come across after you come out of a cave eventually, and he like fixes up your weapons, but he's totally like, he's just small. He totally has the energy of just cave hermit who knows way too much and does not want to put up with your bullshit.
Yeah, there's one that's totally grumpy and is tired of your shit, and then there's one that's like a twitchy little nerd.
Yeah. I met the first one. I haven't met his
What I
like
thought.
mean brother apparently, but I met the first one, and that was like the exact vibe I was going for.
I love it. Okay, so that's very good. Now, a proposal, because I think that I want characters to be like interacting in the town fairly regularly, so I don't think I would want you to live in like a cave on the other side of the island or something. What do you think about the idea of the town has like a cave that is kind of within the town limits? Like the town, you know, is up against the side of a cliff, and in that cliff there's just a cave at one point, and your character lives in the cave like this hermit and has that very like Yoda crazy out there hermitic lifestyle, but also is like 5 minutes away from the grocery store.
Oh yes, absolutely, because like it gives me like the distance to also just obviously be like wandering around town all the time, and I really just imagine my character being the type where like somebody's just in their kitchen and they're like, what the hell is that noise? And they go outside and I'm just digging around in their crawl spaces like, hey, I found some rat carcasses and I'm gonna take them because they're cool, thanks.
Right. Okay, so that's great. So that's our first one. Jeff. What kind of vocations are you feeling?
Well, I think glasswork would make a lot of sense.
Sure.
So feels like it's kind of in vibes with the old icy theme. So I feel like I'm a glass worker, but the glass work, spans climates, so it's not just literally ice, but it's sort of like ice infused or something.
Glassworking, you could do something like alchemy would be a good fit with that. Or I was going to say or blacksmithing, but I think your character could probably handle a glass smithy. I don't think your character could handle a blacksmith. Um,
Okay.
Alchemy maybe because glassworking involves a lot of chemistry. So
Yeah. Okay.
Glassworking also involves a lot of heat, so it would be like magical glass.
mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, okay. Alchemy and glassworking.
Yeah, it works for me.
All right. Next up is going to be Kevin. So start thinking about that while I write this down. All right, Kevin. What are you feeling?
I'm kind of between three. I want to
Okay.
keep up with this because I want to be a like I scout new territories and I'm like constantly on the move and constantly like finding unique little habitats. Like here's just this like little garden that's clutching off the edge of the shard, right? So I'm thinking either cooking or medicine because I like want to get rare medicinal. I'm thinking cooking, medicine, or gardening, and I'm leaning towards cooking and medicine. Where I just like a new
Cooking and medicine would be very cool.
because I can find I'm finding all of the basically I'm like a scout that travels around and like on my travels I just encounter a lot of very hard to reach locations where I just find an extremely rare herb that either is very tasty or has medicine.
Can I tell you why I particularly love the idea of your character being a cook? It's because your character is an insect, and I imagine that he is going to make what will appear to non-insects to be like pretty horrifying concoctions. But you're also a good cook, which means they eat it, and you're like, well, it is good. Damn.
Yeah, I want to also be able to cook for other people. So, like, because I'm an insect, I basically have there's no edible thing off.
Yeah, no, I love it, and that'll be fun because that will So a big thing with the vocation is
Can I also be um
oh, okay, sure, I will make that. No.
Okay. I have a scissor, so it can like just
You are not opposed to eating meat. It's your body just doesn't.
you will be amazed how fast I can slit the throat of a large cat.
Okay. Yeah, that's very good. I wanted to mention while I was thinking about it, part of the reason that we have this vocation system and part of why I think it's very cool is it is supposed to give you something to be thinking about during the level, even though you do your projects in the time between levels. The point of the vocation is that during the level, you're supposed to be keeping an eye out for things that will help you on your next project. Maybe you meet an NPC in a similar profession and you ask them for like some blueprints, or you look for like natural ingredients that you can use.
So I just picked two. I picked two to me all
Two total.
craft performances gathering and vocations are all separate.
Two total.
Two total. Darn. That changes kind of what I would want to do a little bit. Could I do my first like crafting as I'm actually thinking I'll go with cooking
I think cooking, and the thing is,
I can have a
make-
mild interest in medicine, but it's not my
yeah,
primary.
and you can do like your character makes muffins that make sick people better.
Yes. Vocation.
Okay.
The vocation on here, but could I do cartographer? Because that goes with like the scout.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Okay.
I'm a map maker. I'm not the person. I'm like going to new places and like scouting it out so that like, and then people buy maps from me so that they can then go and then delve into things that just appeared on the earth.
Yeah, no, I love that. And so, so the thing is, the village has scouts, which are going to be how you find out about the.
Can I just be chief scout?
Well, I mean, yes, but that is all of the characters are included in the scout corps.
Oh.
That's actually that's going to be the kind of like monthly cycle is your characters find a new place, you want to check it out, and so they send in like the scout corps to see what they can get out of that place. So all of your characters are going to be involved in some amount of scouting, but I like the idea that your character's thing is while they're scouting, they're making notes about like the landscape, and then when they get back, they like really dig down and make a great map. And maybe they take those drawings and stuff they've done and they turn it into like a whole book. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
That's excellent. That's really cool. Okay. Next up is Mike. So we've got our horrifying small goblin zombie man. What is his job around town?
So he's the town alchemist,
Okay.
and that's his job. He kind of stays off on his own and is really just busy working up
Okay.
all of the new stuff.
So we need a second one, and also, it would be best if we can avoid people having two of the same job because.
Oh no, I wasn't saying like alchemy as a craft. I was saying alchemist as a job.
Oh, okay. So what do you have in mind?
So I think it goes in line with the character arc that I'm trying to build, where alchemy is what led them to, I guess, the closest equivalent would be like lichdom.
Sure.
I'm just trying to think of something that goes with alchemy.
Listen, one of them has to be enchanter.
Yeah, I think so. So I think alchemist and enchanter.
Now we don't have anybody yet who has gone in the
Oh, has no one chosen
direction?
medicine yet?
Chosen what?
Medicine.
Kevin kind of did. Kevin took cooking, but he's gonna take it in a medicinal direction.
You can take.
Is it harmful if I don't choose medicine just based on like my class and kind of playing to the strengths of being a healer?
If it's not going to be interesting to you, don't take it. I also think that because Kevin's character is already going to be doing the like looking for interesting herbs and stuff to collect, we probably won't need that. Now the other thing I wanted to point out is that Jeff's character has alchemy as one of his vocations, so probably one of you would want to take something other than alchemy. I noted we don't have anybody with like blacksmithing yet, and if you are an artificer, you've got tools, and if you've got tools, you're making tools.
Yeah, I gotta make stuff. Yeah, I could go for blacksmith.
Blacksmith and enchanter is very cool. I think that's good. Zai. Now,
Yo.
so one of them has to be musician, right? Like you,
Well, can I see the list? Because I can't see it on
right? Sorry.
my
Um,
computer.
okay, so we've got all of the making stuff crafts up here. We've got the performances, which means like making a new performance is the thing you'd be doing between months. So I think
Mhm.
music is like definitely one of them. Um,
Yeah, I was going to. I hadn't looked at the list, but the idea that I had going was I'm a bartender.
oh, that's
Um,
great.
but I don't like. I don't want to like say that it's like based on alchemy or anything like that, or I'm like making brews or drinks or anything like that. I am a bartender who listens to people's problems and then draws out the animalistic angst of their issues and makes them into new songs.
I love that. Well, if we're going that direction,
So
why don't we go ahead and do um, music and it's in here somewhere. Music and brewing would actually be very good, and your character,
grilling?
yeah, like making alcohol.
No, I'm not making alcohol though. That's what I was saying. But
Okay,
I don't know. I've never heard of brilling before.
brewing, like
Oh,
brewing a
brewing.
beer.
I thought you said BRILLING. Like,
No.
what the hell is that?
You're
No.
making
So,
books for blind people. What?
making books for an ace is scary. Nah, but so pull back up a little bit.
You don't have to choose
Um,
two. The goal of choosing two is that they kind of influence each other, and so like Mike's character is an enchanter and a blacksmith, but they're not two separate things. It means he makes enchanted like tools. Yes,
roll up a little bit.
sure. And this list is not definitive. It's not all encompassing.
So yeah, I would think that bartender and musician
Okay.
would be good. And as
How
far as
about
like
how
the
about
craft for
for
the thing that I'm producing, I mean the music, I guess, would be the thing that
yeah,
I'm producing.
music and I think that for bartender, I'm gonna make that a variant of journalist. So
That makes sense.
it is bartender, but it's doing human research.
Yeah.
That's good. So we have everybody's vocation. So at this point, everyone should be starting to get an idea of like who their character is. Like I think all of these characters are starting to feel pretty fleshed out to me.
Yeah.
Um okay, so um the next step would be to answer some of the questions about how did your character end up um, living with the village? Do they have any existing relationships? What kind of world did they come from? But I kind of think, first of all, because those would take a long time and they are not ultimately as like important of things we need to get nailed down. Um, and also because I think this next thing would inform that. I want to flesh out a little bit about the village before we go any further.
Hey, Brian, real quick, just playing timekeeper.
Mhm.
Do you know about how long we're gonna do the rest of the session?
That's a good question.
Yeah, right about 3 hours.
Yeah. I was just about to suggest 5:15. So all we need to do for the village is I have a list of townspeople, and we're going to choose what the starting population of the village is. So that should be
Okay.
pretty quick. Yeah. So let's aim to be done by 5:10. So we've got 15 minutes left for that. And geez, where is that thing at? Okay. So I have a list that I've been filling out here. We've got it's a lot of blank spaces because I'm going to continue adding more people as potential like recruitable NPCs as we go. But we've got a fair number of NPCs on here, and I think I want you guys to choose somewhere between 5 and 10, maybe 7 people for the village. Now, the first option is we have candidates for mayor. This is assuming the town has a mayor, but I think that would kind of lubricate a lot of the town functions and make everything kind of go a bit smoother if they did, especially from like a storytelling perspective. So the 4 candidates I have is we have a orcish type person who led a slave revolt that evolved into the foundation of the village. So sort of a Spartacus vibe. We have a human who is an ex-priest. So I had here of the Catholic Church. That was back when I was doing kind of an old idea for the world. But an ex-priest of some powerful church who has been branded as a heretic and exiled, so kind of a Galileo figure. We have a retired sky pirate captain, and then we have a vampire woman who is trying to start her own kingdom. So are you guys inclined towards any of those? Do you want the town to not have a mayor and kind of just go by like, public vote?
I think the town should have a council of 3.
Okay.
As opposed to a mayor. Triarchies are full of drama.
That's actually very good. Do you want to do how about this? We will
So make it the 3 of them, like the vampire lady, Savonarola, and some lame dude named Herbert.
Yeah. So Herbert is definitely the ex-priest.
Oh, I was going with the Savonarola. I mean, if you know who that is historically, Bonfire of the Vanities and all that stuff. But no, that's cool. Ah, okay. Yeah, he was a nutty Catholic priest in like 15th or 16th century Florence, who got all of the people of the town to rebel against rich people by burning all of their things in the center of town.
Great.
Oh, I know that guy.
Okay, and for the 3rd mayor, do we want the Knoll, or do we want the Sky Pirate or the Slave Revolt leader?
I think the slave revolt leader. So Lady D, Savonarola, and Spartacus
Yeah,
are the town mayor.
all
Basically,
walk
are the
into a
council,
bar.
the ruling council.
Okay, that's good. So we're going to count those 3 as 1. So let's try to get maybe 6 more people, and then it will be these 6 characters and their families will be the starting point of the town, and then there will probably be some other like unnamed NPCs in there. So we've got a clerical worker who wanted to be a librarian but was deemed unfit for the profession and always has the choicest weed on hand. We have a lion man town sheriff who left his mountain clan a while back.
Lion-O, yes.
All right, hell yeah. We've got a centaur who is the captain of the militia captain. And that is 100% just a character that I made as a test character and then became way too infatuated with and decided to put him on the list.
Hmm.
Um,
Never mind. Go ahead. I was gonna say something inappropriate.
we're just gonna keep going down the list. So we've got a sky sailor slash ferryman who is a dragonborn and grew up sky surfing. We have
Ooh.
an aeronaut slash map maker. I don't think we should have him because that completely is the same thing as Kevin's character.
What about a ferryman? What you were saying right before made me think of that. Like Karen across the river Styx, but somebody who can take us to like at least
well,
one of the closer shards.
The town definitely has an airship. Like that is a thing. If you have a character who is the ferryman, that would just be an NPC, like a named NPC for the airship to start off. But yeah, I think that's a good fit. We've got another ranger or wilderness scout. She is a Vanara, which is a monkey person, like monkey-ish humanoid creature. She loves her mother was a druid, her father was a village guard. She loves exploring the wilderness, but she goes stir crazy if she's not around people for too long, which is why she's a scout. We've got just a town spy who likes exploring and collects shot glasses. We've got a detective who is a axolotl and likes solving crimes. That is the one that you need, I'm pretty sure. We've got a brewer who takes his craft way too seriously, and he works constantly, and he does not have patience for anything else. Now
Yeah,
this one,
we should have a brewer.
okay,
At least for my bar.
yeah, no, I totally
I don't
agree,
like
and
the alcohol.
you guys are like partners. This one is a free character. This is a town drunk that is a dryad that woke up as you guys were building the village. Does not serve any purpose in the town, but is there. And because they're free and because Mike came up with them, I'm going to add them.
All right.
Somebody needs a Barney or a drunk Treebeard.
So I have a character here named Thal. They're a baker, and I don't know. They're a character who has a crush on one of the other villagers, and joined this pilgrimage to be with them, but is still too awkward to talk about them, and makes very good baked goods. We've got a satyr that is a beautician. Used to be the handmaid of a prominent noblewoman, but ran away after she was caught sleeping with her mistress's husband. We've got an apothecary here.
Yeah, I would like to add the apothecary, please.
Yep, I believe that was one of yours. And this is a character who is the reincarnated ghost of a woman who died collecting herbs.
We have two thieving orphans.
Is there any other?
You mean my children?
Sorry, I'm just gonna scroll down here to the miscellaneous section and just gonna table thieving orphan number
Real
1,
Dickensian shit.
number 2, and we're just gonna put a little star next to each of those. Now, if we have 2 thieving orphans, then I think we should have somebody who works in childcare and is like the teacher for them. Now, I don't have anything written out for that, so I'm gonna go up to the next closest thing, which is
Mr. Skinner.
Chippy. Chippy is a humanoid woodpecker who is very passionate about her inn, and she wants to make an inn that serves every kind of guest, and it just looks like an absolute atrocity because there's one room that's just a giant bird's nest, and there's one room that's a bougie aristocracy, and one that's like a cozy cabin. And she's also extremely high energy. Children love her. Everyone else just cannot keep up with her. What are we thinking for the children? Okay.
Well, are these the entire inhabitants of the town, or are these just the main ones?
The ones we're choosing, they're the starting named NPC, and every one of them, most of them will also have like families, and then there'll be a few other like unnamed NPCs wandering in the background, but this is like, that. This is one I came up with yesterday that I was very proud of. That Caden is a fishman who is a doctor, and he's a fitness bro, and he's just like he's that dude that you meet at the gym that always wants to spot you and is very outgoing and really into fitness. But he's also a doctor, which means everybody has to come to him on a regular basis when they get hurt or sick, and he fixes their sickness but also tells them they need to be doing more squats. Let's see, we've got I have another lion person here who is a hunter, butcher, and cook, and is just very mean and really hard to get along with, has no patience for people, but has a surprising soft spot for children, and is based on Gordon Ramsay. We have a playful rancher named Bubbles, who is a delightful old man with a cattle herd.
Yes, I would like one Master Roshi, please.
Okay, we'll go ahead and add a Master Roshi. We have Lashutha, who is a Naga fortune teller and oracle that grew up using her arts to protect her clan, and then got sold into slavery, and one thing led to another, and she ended up with the village. We've got Trisha, who is a biologist and was kicked out of her home because of her unseemly morbid obsession with death and organs. And she is a self-trained biologist, but very passionate about organs. We have Vatli, who is a male minotaur that was kicked out of his university because of his dangerous and ill-advised research. We have Chippy. We have Ushat, who is a writer that was a journalist during a great war and is trying to do research into stuff.
Can we add Ushat?
Sure thing. We have a pair here, and all of these are not our final selections. I'm just marking the ones that people have interest in. We have a pair here that I really enjoy because I like to imagine they're roommates, and they're both painters, and one is a fishman who's very serious, and he's an ex-soldier who's trying to use painting to quiet his inner demons, and the other is a fishman who's just a surfer bro. We have a storyteller / scald bugbear that has lots of good stories to tell, but also sounds like he might be making a lot of them up. We have a merchant named Rat, who has not betrayed anyone in the village yet, but you are pretty sure that he got most of his goods by stealing them off of people. He might be a bandit. He might just be a highway bandit. But he's selling you
Oh.
guys goods, so
Yeah, I like Rat, but I'm not sure. Like, does that fit with the like tone
I think it's
of
fine.
stuff that we might be missing out on in the town? Like, if we already have a merchant slash grocer, or if we have one, would it make sense to have a merchant who deals in artifacts as well?
Well, let's see. I mean, we can always add him later. And then the last merchant I have on the list is a grocer who is kind of just very bored with where her life is at and is hoping to find something new and exciting. So we want 6 more after the mayors. We've got our lion sheriff person who's very serious. We have our passionate ferryman who used to be a surfer. We have our axolotl detective journalist. We have a male goblin brewer who probably is a must. I'm gonna go ahead and add a checkbox for all of these so we can check off the ones that we go with. We have Sarah, the reincarnated ghost apothecary. We have Bubbles, the rancher. We have Chippy, the innkeeper. Ushwat, the writer journalist. Now, this is very similar to the other journalist, so I actually think that we should probably disregard her and go with the other one, so that we're not doing overlap. And then we can add Rat as another candidate as well. So, okay. How many do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 8 is a pretty good number. So that gives us about 10 inhabitants that we're going to have for the town as like named interesting NPCs for the beginning of the game, and then we will add more people to the town as the campaign goes on. So everybody can take the next like month or two as we wrap up our current campaign to be thinking about, you know, where they want to go with their character. I will be thinking about these villagers and kind of putting things together, as well as, you know, what we know about your characters and where stories could go with them. And we will start putting that together, and that is the end. So I think we've come up with some pretty cool characters and stuff.
Awesome.
All right. Anything else we need to cover?
I'm liking it.
All right. Great. Then I will talk to you guys later.
Sounds good. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
All right, y'all. See ya.